Is Warframe a good game? A very simple question, right? So let's hear the answer from someone who has played more than 10,000 hours of the game.
The Deviri Paradox expansion for Warframe just released, and despite all these exciting reveals for it, all the info being teased that will potentially wrap up information we've been wanting for years, new gameplay, whatnot, I am surprised to find myself thinking, damn, I just don't give a shit anymore. Now, having heard that and seen the title of this video, some of you might think, well, the game must be bad, right? If it has no allure to you as a seasoned player, so why are you saying it's good? And while I understand it might be confusing, here's some food for thought. My playtime across all accounts and platforms has almost reached 10,000 hours. That's
a lot.
416.6 days, or 1.14 years.
Completely wasted.
Been running on one platform or another under my account for 1.5% of my lifespan, and that's with a generous 75-year estimate. There is no feasible way in hell that anyone gets to call a game that took that much of their time bad. Not that it stops people, of course. It honestly reminds me of a tweet back in the day where they showed a Steam review done at 8,000.
Well, thankfully, it's kind of a perspective thing. Is something good or bad?
1,000 hours talking about how bad the game was. But the guy had 12,000 hours on file, meaning he wrote the review and then proceeded to play for another 4,000 hours. Obviously,
makes sense.
I am done with the game. But that's really not such a bad thing, nor does it mean that the game is unplayable for someone wanting to get into it today. And with that in mind, I wanted to do something different, because all too often when someone is doing what I'm doing right now, it typically goes somewhere along the lines of... What is up, guys? Coming at ya. Quitting Warframe for the 7th time this year, even though we all know I'm going to be back with the next major content release. Singing, it's crazy. And I hate saying that, because
yeah, that makes sense, dude. For me, that game was dope. I had... how many hours? Also, a lot of hours. A lot of hours in Dota, okay? Was top 10% player base, top 5 or something even. Pretty high, you know? Man, when I finally quit that game... It was like an absolute just rock rolling off your shoulders. It felt so good to be free. And a lot of people have that one favorite game that they think is the best, that they think it's your favorite, but in reality, you're just a slave to it, essentially. Oh yeah. And the moment you can actually quit it, you're never looking back. Never. And it feels good, you know, being free and whatnot.
You know, all the people making these videos have untold thousands of hours sunk into it, and I think they just have a hard time reconciling with that. Something I rarely see,
Cost sunk fallacy, baby.
Departure done with the understanding that not everything has to be perfect. Not everything has to last, least of all one person's experience with a live service video game. Warframe has done its job, and any game that manages to keep me for that long has hit it out of the park, and I want to talk about how I believe
probably
it did so. Review Warframe and what aspects of it make it such a great game, and maybe touch on some of the...
Well, it's definitely not the character quality look, you know? Not gonna lie, not looking great there, Chief.
Not so great aspects as well, because it wouldn't be fair to talk about what got me into the game without talking about what makes it suck. When it comes to the better aspects of this free-to-play MMO, though, after discussing them with friends and even people I've never spoken to before, the undeniable king is movement. Space Ninjas has been the coin descriptor for Warframe since its release, and given that, it makes sense that movement would be a pretty important part of the game. It's actually become such a defining aspect of it that I can't help but compare another game's movement to Warframe's whenever I start one.
I can't bullet jump, this is hell.
Movement in Warframe consists of the 10 following options: walking, sprinting, sliding, rolling, jumping, double jumping, bullet jumping, wall latching, and aim gliding. Hearing that many options, you're probably thinking, wow, that kind of sounds like a shitfest, and I'm not sure how that plays out. But they chain together flawlessly. Maybe you just eviscerated the bowels of your mortal enemy, and you want to jump up a wall before launching yourself over 100 meters, because why the fuck not? Want to jump around a corner and bullet jump into an alcove you wouldn't have been able to otherwise reach? You can do that kind of stuff. Some missions become unspoken.
Okay, I need an explanation. What is a bullet jump? Is it like he's aiming while jumping, or what exactly is happening here? And I'm no Warframe player, but I know there's a lot of Lotus hentai out there.
Competitions between the randoms you are match made with, just to see who can complete the objective and fly through to the extraction point first. Lately, there's been some really weird debates on Twitter about games that have good movement, and maybe I'm missing something, because all the clips people show in these arguments just look like crack-addled children mashing their keyboard. It doesn't seem so much like good movement to me as it does just excuses to have players seize in the most extraneous ways possible. Whereas with Warframe, if there were ever a way players would want their character to move, there exists a way to do it. It is by far and away the greatest QOL I've ever had in a game. game. Because of this, Space Ninjas is an apt description, because you feel every bit the part as you cruise through tile sets, in any which way you'd like. If there were one bit of movement to embody why it all feels so fucking good, it'd be bullet jumping. And this is where I'll start to tie into my next point. Developer outreach.
Tell me.
Bullet jumping was not initially part of the game, nor was it something that the devs would have ever normally considered adding. Back in the day, there was a movement tech players came to exploit called coptering. Now, I personally don't have any OG footage of coptering, and I'm not going to steal it from someone else, but the best thing I can compare it to is sword skating in Destiny, and for those who have no clue what that is, it's basically taking advantage of the momentum caused in an attack animation and canceling the attack midway by using another action that can translate and retain that momentum, resulting in the following.
That's not bad. That's pretty good.
Digital Extremes, when presented with what by all means should have been considered an exploit, instead of acting to squash the movement tech that the players loved, they thought maybe they're onto something. And
unlike pretty much, well, Blizzard. I think the best example is Blizzard. You got something you love in a Blizzard game? Well, guess what? That's a bug. Guess what? It's fixed. Guess what? We just also made it worse some magically. How? Guess what? We introduced a new bug that we're not gonna fix, but that is gonna ruin your experience. Ta-da! Yeah. This is called being a good developer. You know, there's a bug that people like, and you know, just make it part of the game. Seems simple, right? Well, you would be surprised how hard that is for some other companies.
Acted to implement it, giving birth to bullet jumping. While it might be tempting to chalk this up as a cool but isolated incident, it's not even close. DE has their ear to the ground in ways I never would have expected. Hell, I made content for one of the most niche parts of the game possible. Base customization. One day I reached out to one of the devs via the game's forum DM feature. I didn't expect a reply nor the time of day from them, but I got a reply, my concerns addressed, and I even got to help give feedback on and test content specific to my request before release for a very long time after that. I didn't even bring people to play the base game with my content. Rather, I told them about the intricacies of one of the most pointless parts of the game, and I'm not the only person they've done this to. It doesn't matter if it's a niche in the game or one of the most dominant sections of it. They will actually listen to you and often make changes where possible. We'll cover later how Warframe is an ever-evolving amalgamation of a game, but throughout the entire 10-year run of its development, I can't think of a single time where the
Warframe is old, dude.
Have they always made great decisions? Of course not. But quite literally every time they don't, they're there sitting down to talk with everyone about it.
Ooh, that's a nice animation, boyo.
This
wow, that's a really nice animation. What can I say? Yeah, you hear a lot good about the Warframe devs. They had though one bad thing. It was something about the so they're a free-to-play game, so obviously they have some kind of playable currency. And it was something about that. I think they did something bad when people didn't like it, and they never fixed it. That's pretty much the only negative thing I have heard about Warframe, and I could be potentially 100% wrong on this. But that's something I kind of remember, that Warframe players weren't exactly ecstatic about what the developers were doing with some kind of pay-to-win currency.
Caters to every playstyle imaginable. Want to stealthily slip through the map, assassinating key enemies to complete the mission? Maybe you want to be a bit more daring and color your character all pink and go guns blazing instead. Maybe you don't even want to look at the enemies and just snap their neck from 50 meters away. It doesn't matter what you want to do. You can do it, even alone, as this entire game can be completed solo. In addition, all characters, weapons, and playstyles are relevant for all content. You can take what might be considered the worst weapon and character in the game, modify it in such a way that it can nuke entire maps. There's no point at which a weapon is actually outdated. If a loadout is bad, it's due to either a lack of imagination or the resources to make the build work. It feels incredibly rewarding during modifications that, when set properly on different weapons, allow the weapon to go from pea shooter to destroy.
Dude, what the hell is this damage? Critical chance, critical multiplier. I mean, the crit multi is there. Wow, look at this. And what do you mean crit chance from 25% to 116%? What do you mean? Status 25%. What is this? Impact, puncture, slash, toxic. I kind of get toxic, but you know, how can you have puncture plus slash plus impact? You'd think this would be blunt damage, or this would be, you know, not blunt. Dude, I need a Wikipedia page.
of worlds. It's fun to go through the solar system unlocking different characters and weapons that allow for an incredibly large variety of combat styles. Maybe you learned about a melee combo unique to a specific weapon, or you just learned that a certain weapon has a special effect that you'd want to pair with Warframe's ability and see how long you can last in an endurance mission like survival. Even on the point of mission types, there is so very much to do in this game. So much has been added
almost
over 10
sneezed.
years.
Woo!
You can test your builds in endurance missions. You can try to speedrun other times. You can try boss fights in open worlds several hundred times. You can go to space. You can play Elden Ring. You can fish. You can pet the dog. You can play Street Fighter. Hell, you don't even have to play the actual game anymore. There are entire communities centered around niche aspects of the game that focus on our next point.
Gesundheit. Customization. I never heard anyone talk about this in Warframe.
Customization given to the player in this game is
That's kind of interesting.
In that it has absolutely spoiled me. I have made my name in Warframe teaching people how to customize their guild base in ways they never would have thought possible. I even made a 30-minute video on the intricacies of fucking photo mode, of all things. And that's what all my breathing edited out. The level of customization offered in Warframe can be as simple as I made my dog pink, or as complex as I recreated different raids from Destiny 2 in our guild base, and I also exploited a rendering glitch to make images.
Oh, this is commendable. You know what it is, boy. Solo leveling
shouldn't be possible. God have mercy on my soul. It is truly a struggle to view any other game's customization in a good light.
The teeth looks strange, but you know everything else is amazing. Wow. So you're saying that that a lot of the people who are currently stuck in the Goldshire Inn could be actually stuck in Warframe. Wow, that's a breakthrough right there. Was this story? Yeah, it's story.
Coming into the game and enjoying everything else as much as I already did, I didn't care too much about the story, and I think that would go for most players with their initial gameplay. Nothing seemed to matter, nothing was important. Then I got to and completed the second dream, and I did a complete 180, being completely invested in the story after that point. I've had so many friends that didn't care about the story and wanted spoilers on something they may have seen on the wiki, and each time I'd tell them no, finish up to X quest and we can talk about it. And every time they have thanked me for doing that. This is a near universal sentiment when it comes to Warframe storytelling, and you'll see this exact scenario played out with your own friends, threads on Reddit, YouTube videos, and more. I won't dwell too much on this point, as I'm not trying to spoil anything for potentially newer players, but the release of the second dream marked the beginning. I
mean, you could at least tell us what the story is vaguely about, because, I know nothing. Most people, I imagine, know nothing.
Beginning of Warframe's evolution into something more, and nobody expected it. If there were one point of pain to be had here, it's simply that there are, at times, painfully long gaps between crucial story releases, but that's it.
Odd sound.
A quick but still important note to cover, in hand with story, is the overall design for the game. The art and sound direction are incredible.
Underrated, boys. That's needed in the game to be good.
The sound team has gotten a fair bit of recognition already, but I honestly don't think the art team gets enough praise for what it does. Unquestionably, what drove me to try Warframe for the very first time was the art. The team has consistently delivered a unique alien feeling to the game, even if it's a little too questionable.
Yeah, nice.
Warframe has managed to do free-to-play in an unbelievably successful...
Wait, that was it about the art? Well, that doesn't... that doesn't seem... Well, that was not an in-depth look, in my opinion. Wow. At least say the tracks are bangers or something like sheesh, dude. I am.
Way. Obviously, as a free-to-play game, it does feature a premium currency, Platinum, for whales to buy up. However, Platinum is only used on either cosmetics or character or weapon slots, which don't cost all that much, but are needed by all players in increasing amounts the more they play and unlock. Platinum purchased from the game is spent less on the game's actual offerings and more on the player-to-player market, trading for modifications that you may not have yet. It's incredible simply because they've made it, so there is absolutely nothing in the game that a whale could buy that would give them an outright advantage over other players, and even if they do want to buy up a ton of items from other players, that only helps the other players. It's one of the few games I can think of where whales buying into the game actually helps the free-to-play community, as well as one of the few where the free-to-play community hardly needs any actual investment in the game in order to begin earning items worth selling.
Okay, I thought, okay, that sounded okay. When he started, I thought that this sounds dodgy because he's saying that, you know, at first he kind of emphasized the point that, well, this game is free to play, but there's pay to win things in it, but it's not really pay to win because, well, you know, whatever you can buy for, you know, money can also be found in game through other means, which is, you know, completely fine, but that does not actually not make the game pay to win. You know, a lot of people, there are some people that legitimately think that, oh, here's the last dungeon of the game, and it's really, really hard. Well, there's a pay-to-win mechanic where you can just buy the items you want from that dungeon, but that's not really pay-to-win. You know why? Because, well, other people can also do the dungeon normally and get these drops, even though it takes roughly 3.5 billion runs to get a single one of those items. Not pay to win. Yeah, there are people who legitimately think like that. It sounded a little bit like that at the start, but he kind of, like, fixed the point, I guess.
May not sound very sustainable, but enough plat goes out of the game via official offerings being bought so it works out. The market thrives and is a pretty huge part of the game, regardless of if you go the free-to-play route or not.
So there's actually a really funny bug right now that you guys saw a second.
Are we going to show it?
I don't know if we can.
Yeah, show the bug, just for a second.
There it was. If I switch weapons.
Huh?
Okay.
Overall, it's a surprisingly fun game to play with friends. Obviously, yes, any game with friends is going to be better, but having played many games with friends over the years, this one stands above, be it community events or challenges, or just dicking around doing any of the many, many things to do in this game. It was just too easy to have a good time.
Dude.
Even without friends, though, and somewhat circling back to the dev outreach point made earlier. Warframe's community is an actual
Looks kind of nice,
Devs have been streaming a primetime activity weekly on Twitch that most players only watch for the drops, or at least to start. Over time, though, you come to appreciate the absolute fuckery that ensues when community managers get in front of the camera. From dirty jokes that should never be said on air, to failing open-world boss fights in front of the entire player base, it is always a blast. The community is something that a lot of people don't care too much about when starting a game, but with Warframe, I think it's something that everyone will inevitably get pulled into. And that is a selling point for this game.
What is this? Have you been in the water? Oh, nothing too spicy.
That is criminally underrated. Moving on to some of the considerably less appealing aspects of the game. First up, we have community. Ah, yes, the duality of man. It's a given that any community is going to have a shitty side, but Warframe gets some of the most outrageous and infantile hate I have ever seen. And while speculation on my part, I believe it is because of just how helpful and responsive the devs are. Some delusional players have come to mistake high chance of response with mandatory response, thinking that just because the devs respond to a lot of players, that means they should respond to all players. I believe it's because of the family-like atmosphere that DE has.
Dude, that sounds so stupid. Devs should not respond to most players. Most players' opinions are stupid. Most players' opinions are garbage. That is just the reality of the world, okay? They probably are only responding to the actual decent comments and ideas, and ignoring everyone who says, "You should give me everything at the start of the game." Yeah. I wonder why they don't respond to you, Chief.
Has tried so hard to create, that these players come to feel betrayed when the devs do not meet their fantasy standards, and it is batshit crazy the things these people will do and say. There was a point I had to make a video to tell my own niche community to shut the fuck up and grow a pair, because even I got tired of it. Again, shitty people are not unique to Warframe, but the fervor and venom with which the game gets shit on at times certainly feels like it. Grind. I don't really want to talk too much about this because it's a fucking MMO, so what did you expect?
Yeah, it's gonna have
Warframe's grind is a cute, adorable kitten when compared to a true grind monster like Lost Ark. The only grind I think is truly horrendous and worth mentioning
what's wrong with Lost Ark?
Modifications, as the amount of Kuva required to get a god roll takes about 1% of your life to farm. That is atrocious, and it amazes me that force stats or protection measures when rolling have not been added to the game. Beyond that, though, there is no grind in Warframe worth complaining about beyond time. Crafting requirements can sometimes be off-putting, simply because a newer player might go to craft their newest Warframe, say they'll be back in 3 days, and never come back online.
I don't know. Comparing a shooter's grinds to Lost Ark is kind of unfair. People call Lost Ark a pay-to-win game, and technically, yeah, you can 100% pay-to-win at it, but Lost Ark has such a unbelievably high degree of skill needed to play. It doesn't matter if you are literally 100 item levels above everyone else. if you're bad, if you can't click buttons properly, and when I say click buttons, I actually mean learning to differentiate boss combos from a single pixel, because that's usually how much you are given to understand what's happening. Lost Ark is a special type of game, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I don't think these grinds are equal. I don't think so. Also, what kind of grinds are there in Lost Ark? It's pretty much just the books being kind of grindy-ish, you know? But that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's literally just a bunch of books. If you want... Getting the perfect gear for getting a character is also a little bit grindy. But, you know, it's like a week's It's roughly a week or two to get a character from 0 to the 1 minus newest trade, you know? That's kind of how long it should technically take you to grind out it if you're serious. If you're like meh here and there, it's gonna probably take you a month. But there's so much to do. I don't know how I feel about this Lost Ark comparison. I think he just got owned by probably some kind of beginner boss, you know, because most games are not even 1/10 of. Let me just say it like this. If you think Dark Souls is hard, bro, you haven't played Lost Ark, you little fucking loser, okay? Lost Ark has absolutely no. Dark Souls has absolutely nothing on Lost Ark, okay? Those bosses have 3 mechanics! Wow! The average Lost Ark boss has 40 mechanics. Eat it.
The game is literally in an eternal beta phase, always unfinished. This is
also, I have 2K hours on Lost Ark, but I also quit that game. By the way, completely well worth it.
It's not a joke. While each update is heavily playtested before release, you're still risking game crashes, progression stops and losses, and more that slip through the cracks. If you play content on release, you're often better off waiting a week for the wrinkles to get ironed out before committing to any major update.
Sad.
This isn't to say that happens with every update, but rather to say it can and will happen to you, and is something that you need to accept if you decide to play any update upon release. That being said, at least DE is upfront about what they do instead of lying to our faces and giving us the infamous post-release apology note. Diversity. The game started out as a looter space ninja third-person shooter, running about what weren't even
It's probably still exactly that.
and procedurally generated tile sets at first. Presently, however, it now offers the following: Warframes, Operator Drifter, Spaceship Simulator, Smaller Spaceship Simulator, Dark Souls Simulator, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, Mech Warrior, Open World Simulator, Open World Factions, Syndicate Factions, Fishing, Mining, Animal Preservation, Open World boss fights, Archon hunts, failed seasonal models and battle passes, clans, dojo construction,
Failed seasonal.
research, and so much more. Holy fuck. The game has diversified
That's
so
a lot
much.
of
It's less prudent
mechanics.
to ask what the game is now, and more so to ask what it isn't at this point. This doesn't mean that the game is bad by any means, but it does mean that the game you may have liked 5 years ago is long dead, kicked to the curb, and left behind for something different. Whether you like what the game has become now is obviously going to be different for everyone, but the Warframe of now resembles nothing of the Warframe 10 years ago, let alone 5. New player experience. Given the sheer volume of shit in this game we just discussed, you can figure the new player experience is kind of
meh.
Not great. The obfuscation of systems and
I don't. Okay, I have seen a little bit about the new player experience. I think Peon did a video on this, and I watched it. But yeah, dude, nothing will beat Destiny 2's new player experience. You go in, you meet a character, you play 5 minutes, suddenly the story skips. That character is dead. And you have no idea why, and it's supposed to be a super big deal that everyone's sad about. Okay. Then you have this, like, the introduction to the main city happens, and your first quest is like, go here, this is where you can buy and sell, like, I don't know, weapons or whatever. You go there, 5 minutes pass, time skip, congratulations, that weapon vendor is dead. And not replaced. Oh, nothing will ever compare to the Destiny 2's beginner player experience, because it is one of the worst in the world as far as I can tell. It's like, okay, you learned this thing, congratulations. 5 minutes from now, it's no longer useless. You're getting constantly this pop-up that you unlocked a slot on something. You don't even know what that word means because it's a made-up word from a system you haven't even actually unlocked. But for some reason, it's telling you that you have slots in that system. Bruh. No new game experience is as bad as Destiny's. There's just no shot.
Interactions that your average player will never catch on to leads to the new player experience being something like... Duviri does address some issues, but it also creates entirely new ones, as it creates, say, an expectation of maybe being able to kill a level 40 Grineer in any other part of the game with an unmodded weapon, only to be met with harsh reality when they're curb-stomped by their friendly neighborhood knocks. And then that's it for things that we could think of that absolutely suck in this game.
Oh
In
no, the
summation,
thing is
Warframe
sad.
is a free-to-play MMO that has no business being as good as it is, and is easily my top game of the last decade. Should you play it? Absolutely. Is it perfect? Not quite, but close. You're obviously going to find things.
Thankfully, at least I don't like shooters that much, so I'm just gonna stick to playing Diablo 4, you know?
To be frustrated with, as you would in any MMO. Will you be any more frustrated with Warframe than you were when Melania kicked your ass to the curb?
Yo,
no,
what the
so
hell?
Go pick it up. Crossplay exists, so you have no excuse. Go get the install going. Find that weird shit on your friends list that's always playing it and let them know that you're going to start. That being said, if you are not interested in starting a game as long-running as Warframe, I do not blame you, but at the very least, keep an eye out for what Digital Extremes presents in the future. Obviously, any game studio isn't guaranteed to crank out heavy hitters with each attempt, but the love and care with which Warframe is crafted and maintained has earned in me a firm belief that all of us should try what comes next. To DE and the Warframe community.
Looks good though, right? Yeah. Well, that was interesting. What a great video though. Anyway, this was Insane. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.